Welcome to the Women Shifting Gears podcast driven by Hemmings. This is your home for inspiring conversations with women leading the way throughout the automotive spaces. I'm your host, Amanda Busick, and the power of this podcast is in the strength of this community. We believe that high tides rise all ships, and to each of you collaborating together to steer this ship forward, we see you, we recognize you, and we salute you. It's time to set sail. Another episode of Women Shifting Gears starts now.
And they're off. In this part 2 of the Women Shifting Gears podcast driven by Hemmings, after years of planning and a global pandemic, Renée and Christina Brinkerhoff finally reach Antarctica. And while it's one thing to encounter and solve problems on the mainland, addressing issues with Bring What You Can resources just adds another layer to this already challenging endeavor. From blue ice to seeing the polar Porsche in her habitat, the whiteout to getting stuck at base post-mission. They did it. Over 5 years, thousands of miles traveled, hundreds of hours in planning, Renée Brinkerhoff's Project 356 had concluded its goal of raising awareness for human trafficking on all 7 continents. And while this journey may be complete, there is one thing I've learned about Renée and Christina. Their inspirational path forward is far from over.
You guys, on December 5th, you leave for Antarctica. It's a 2,000-mile journey south to Antarctica. When you're looking out of your window and you see Antarctica for the first time, what's going through your mind?
Gosh, it was so cool. It was so cool. They don't take passengers on the Aleutian cargo plane anymore. We were told that's what we're going to fly. They pulled the permit. They will only let 6 people go in and out for the season. And so we flew down in a Boeing, a 757, which was not what we were expecting. And it was run by Icelandic Air. So you have these lovely Icelandic people that are serving you. And it was just such a strange experience. But you can watch on the screen as you're going south to the huge white block, right?
Wow.
Beneath you. And then, gosh, it was maybe 2.5 hours. We couldn't see much where we're going over the ocean, but then you look down and you start to see icebergs, and then you see white. And then, Mom, remember that mountain range that was at our window? And wow, and it's just thousands of miles of white as far as you can see. And it is truly otherworldly.
And Amanda, you can see crevasses.
Mm-hmm. You can see
and if
crevasses.
You can see crevasses from the air, they're big crevasses.
I want you to explain what that is, because I know that that's one of the things that Jason talked to you about. What is a crevasse, and what does that mean on a race car, or what could happen to a race car?
Well, a crevasse, and I guess in the simplest term, is just a split or an opening in the ice. And the ice is thousands in some areas, like where we were. I think it was maybe 2,500 feet, 3,000 feet, 4,000 feet, depending upon where we were. When you get to the South Pole, it's more like, 18,000 feet deep. And so it's these stress fractures. So the ice is moving, constantly moving, and there's this massive pressure that you can have no idea. You think of the energy necessary to move these massive hundreds of miles of ice, right? All moving to the coast. And that's why it's blue ice. That's why you get this blue ice, because of the pressure. It takes the impurities and the oxygen out of the ice. Well, in the process of all this, there's these things are moving in different directions, just like you have seismic activity in California, right? Different plates. These things are all moving in different directions at different times, and these cause these areas where they fracture. So crevasses can be narrow, or they could suck, 30, 40 feet across, or they can be a few feet across. They can be 15 feet deep, or they can be hundreds or thousands of feet deep. It just depends upon where you are. Yeah, that's what a crevasse is.
And that's the biggest danger. That's that bar you see on the front of the car, Amanda, that people are like, what is that? That black bar is a crevasse bar that was installed in case my mom fell into a crevasse. It would displace the weight, right? And then you open the doors and hopefully you catch yourself. And so that's what that is installed for. And that's probably outside of the elements, the biggest danger we were all facing. There was times when the car I was in, Tom's like, you're not allowed to get out of the car because it's not safe to stand outside. We got to keep going because there's heavy crevassing. So much of our journey was dictated by the crevasses. In fact, the whole thing was.
You guys land in Antarctica, and for, even as a kid, you think of Antarctica, but seriously, how cold is it?
It was sub-zero. And I didn't always have a way because I didn't have signal on my phone, so I didn't have a walking, thermometer, right? But it was sub-zero, and there was tons of wind on the runway, and it felt like being on the moon because you're in the plane. You have everything, you can step out, right? So you're safe. You're not going to get off the plane unless you're in all your gear. And so we went on the plane with that, took our coat off for the duration, and then it was such a surreal experience when we got out because it's like nothing you've ever been able to visualize before. It's really, really hard to describe. And it's all white, and it is blue ice. You heard of a blue ice runway. We didn't know it was actually blue. And it was so cold, and it was so windy. So I don't know what the temperature was, -5 maybe when we got there. And it varied over the 10 days or so that we were there. But I don't know that it was as cold as it could have been. But
yeah, so as the closer you get to the South Pole, the colder it gets.
mm-hmm.
You get to the polar plateau. And where we were, I would say we got down to maybe -20 Fahrenheit, if you factor in wind chill and wind and all, and maybe even more. And then there were winds at times when the winds were so high that at night, it's not night, it's daytime, but when you were in your tent to sleep, people's tents were literally ripped off, and they were without a tent. So they had to be relocated. We wake up in the night and we're wondering, is our tent going to go? So Christina's sleeping with all of her, camera stuff in the tent, inside her sleeping bag, in her sleeping bag. Anything that you don't want to lose, you keep it zipped up in your suitcase, your duffel or whatever, because it could be miles away, and how would you find it, right?
Yeah, before we go to bed, they said kind of pack, because if your tent gets ripped off, everything goes. So that's where I just keep my drives and my batteries in the suitcase, in my sleeping bag. So I was like, well, if I'm going, it's all going. So it's the safest place to store everything for a couple reasons, and the temperature. It's my mom and I in our little tent, and you have to just beat your chest a little bit theoretically and be like, I got this. And you got to get all your stuff on as fast as possible, and then hopefully use the restroom in time. I mean, it is so cold because
there's no way you want to get up in the middle of the night.
No.
I'd rather freeze in my sleeping bag than freeze outside my tent.
Yeah, I mean, it is cold, and that there's snow on the ground on the inside of your tent, right? It's not melting. It's never getting above freezing. Certainly probably not getting above 0, but anyway, it is cold.
You have to be super careful with your eyes from the moment you get off the plane, because the light is so bright and so reflected off all these surfaces that you have to have eye protection, and you have to have it protected and sealed all along your face. You can't have it coming in on the angles, or it'll burn your eyes.
I guess I haven't thought about this element to it, but I guess with it being the South Pole, and we're winter here, it was was it daylight the whole time, or was there?
And it's not just daylight, like sort of when we were in Finland going through in the summer, where it's like daylight until 10 or 11. It's noon sun 24 hours a day. And one of the coolest things I think about being in there is that the sun moves around your head like a halo, right?
Unreal.
Because of where you are positionally in the earth. And the sun, you can see what time it is by where it is in the sky. It's amazing.
So you also have that element to it. I imagine, or I'm hoping the tent comes with some blackout curtains, or
we had an eye mask to sleep in. Yeah.
Little pants. Get down, hunker down in your sleeping bag.
Yeah, cover your head. Yeah.
What was it like when you saw your polar Porsche in her natural element?
Oh, the poor baby was outside for 3 weeks. I envisioned it being at least in a tent, or being draped with something, right? Covered with a tarp or something. Oh no, it's just out there in the brutal cold and wind. And it's just rock solid, freezing, dead cold, right? To the core. Cold to the core, the very core.
Gosh, we got started so quickly though. We landed, we got oriented, and then we went and found it, and we got it into a tent, and immediately, because it just had the tires on the front for shipping, and immediately got the skis on it because it had the tracks on. Got the skis on and put it in its true form for down there, and we got to work with it. Gosh, not long after we landed.
When did the flag drop? When did you guys set out on the 356-mile mission?
Morning. That car turned over, which was the next morning. We had to get the car warm. So in that tent, there was a small little space heater that Simon had brought. I think it was diesel fueled. And once we got some diesel, we just put it back by the engine, and just cranked that thing up, and all night long tried to warm up that core. And in the morning it turned over and we were ready to roll. We got the truck sorted of where everyone else was going to ride, Christina and the rest of the team, and got all the tools and parts and things we might think we need if we broke down along the ice, and got our quote radios that were supposed to give us comms that were horrific. Comms was virtually zero. Wow. Got to figure that part out better. But anyway, just set out. Monday morning set out because we knew we had a blue sky. We knew that weather was something that could change in a moment. And once the winds would pick up or we'd get in a whiteout, it would make it a lot harder. So we tried to get immediately going and get as many miles done as we could.
How many miles did you guys get done on that Monday? Because I know we did get into some whiteout situations that, by the way, I'm sure were scary, but provided incredible photos. So I want to get there as well. But first day, you're behind the wheel of the Porsche. You're looking out of your windshield and you see Antarctica. You're here. You're doing this last leg of the journey. First day, what's that like?
Tough, amazing, breathtaking, super challenging. But I think we did almost 50 miles. I was just trying to look at my log and I don't see it.
It might have been 40 some miles that first day. I have a journal. I kept a journal. Yeah. But we had car trouble not long after we got going. The skis and the tracks performed incredibly well, but there's always something, right? And we found it quickly. Yeah, so on that very first day, we were having some engine troubles, some throttle cable troubles, and having to do repairs.
I mean, we did a quick shakedown on Monday morning, I don't know, maybe 14, 15 kilometers. And then we went out, if I'm remembering correctly, Mom, and we clipped off, I think, nearly 50 miles, which was way better than we were expecting to be able to do on the first day. But it was also so clear this wasn't going to be easy.
Mm-hmm. So we headed up into the mountains that were surrounding us, into these glaciers. And you're right. That's exactly. We did that little test nearby to see if there was anything that would come to the forefront right away. And then it was off.
You guys went into the mountains to drive part of this journey?
Oh, yeah. Every time. Headed to gain elevation. We weren't going to, the original goal was to head toward the South Pole. But because the logistics company was 3 weeks late of setting up, and their plans all had to change. This short season, we had to modify. So no longer were we able to go out because we didn't have fuel dumps. So we had to keep fuel with us in the vehicle that was supporting us, and we had to be able to refuel even those cans at the base camp. So fuel became a deciding factor.
We'll be right back after a quick pause from our Women Shifting Gears, driven by Hemmings Podcast, to hear from our sponsor, Covercraft. At Covercraft, they understand it's not just a car, it's tradition, passed from generation to generation. That's why for over 50 years, they've dedicated themselves to protecting the things that move you. They understand that the things they help you protect are the things that help you pursue your passions. And their passion is for finding the best ways for you to focus on yours without worrying about anything else. Covercraft, protecting the things that move you. From a drivability standpoint, what did the Porsche feel like on skis?
Whoa. Well, so much of that was determined by the surface that we would be going over.
Okay.
Obviously, turning it was bigger turns, right? Bigger radius, slower. But it ran really well. It was phenomenal. On that blue ice, it's not a smooth surface. It's a cupped. If you even imagine being in a very, very choppy, windy sea, and all of a sudden that sea freezes with all the waves and other configurations, that freezes. That's what you're driving on when you're on the blue ice. So that, just imagine you're vibrating, you think your teeth are going to fall out, and the car is taking all that vibration. And then once you get off that into areas where the wind has taken snow that has fallen for thousands of years and collected, because it's very, very little snowfall every year. It's a very dry environment. So the snow that's blowing over the blue ice is snow that has fallen hundreds of thousands of years ago. And so when you're on that surface, that car was cooking with gas. I mean, we were flying.
It was so fun to watch. Like, I cannot believe how well engineered that car was for those surfaces. If we didn't have the challenges we had with the carbs and the bolts, but the actual engineering of the car, it performed so well.
What was top speed down there?
But you weren't allowed to go very fast.
I was supposed to stay under 30 based upon Kieran and what he thought the tolerances were for the bearings and different things. But I remember we were going and he was like, okay, can I give it more gas? Can I go a little faster? And I said, okay, so Jason, what's our speed? Because we have our little monitor that's telling us everything. He said, better slow down. You're going about 45.
Woo!
But when it was going, it was so smooth and you were flying. You had no sense of the speed. It was really exhilarating.
Christina, as you just mentioned, you guys did face some mechanical issues while down there, some things that you can't predict, and you're thousands upon thousands away from a garage or a paddock or any ability to carry a lot of materials with you in these instances. Was there ever a moment where you were afraid this last leg of your journey was going to go bust?
Yes. There was a couple. There was a moment, I think it was on a Wednesday night, where the car was dropping oil and it had challenges. We were in whiteout conditions. Simon had changed the carburetor. We were in a really remote place. It was nervous, a little more nerve-wracking for all of us because he decided to change it without his gloves on. It's sub-zero temperatures. It's freezing. There's all the things that combine with that. The car was dropping some oil and we caught it fairly quickly. And he said, I think the engine is terminal. And we'd brought a spare engine down, but they hadn't put it together because we didn't think we were they ended up sending it to the ice. We didn't necessarily want them to, but they did. So we thought, gosh, he's going to have to take 2 days and rebuild the engine. And then there was another day, same thing. He thought the engine was terminal. So we knew we were expected to leave on Sunday. We arrived on Sunday, we were expected to leave on Sunday, and we thought, are we going to be able to get it in time? Because I think at that point we had, over 150 more miles to go. So there was never a moment it was in the bag, and there was never a moment where we weren't, and we were really pushing to make sure that happened. But the 2 nights where we thought the engine was terminal, we put it in a tent, heated it. And as Simon would say, if you told anybody about this, they would say, you're lying. But you wake up and the car, it turned over. And he's like, I don't know what happened. And if you ask the mechanics down there, they go, it's Antarctica. This stuff happens. It's so strange. But all of a sudden, things are fine again. So there was the bolt issue, which we'd only brought, or Simon had only packed 4 bolts and 3 broke. Had 1 more broke and there's no way. So it was a nail biter to the very end for sure.
2 of those bolts were independent free bolts, just happened to have. I don't know that he planned on bringing them. They were in our kit from other races, and 2 bolts came off of the extra hubs that we brought for the skis. Mm-hmm. So we had to get those out of those hubs. So it was just great. It worked out that way. But yeah, but saying all that, I will tell you, we didn't get stuck. That vehicle that Christina was in had to stop because there's so much heat in the gearbox because they have to take it down to 1 PSI in those tires.
Wow.
Because it's sinking. It's sinking in the snow. In the snow, if you imagine, how deep is that snow, right? What we've talked about. It's sinking in the snow. They take it down. Literally, it looks like it's driving on flats.
Yeah,
well, that puts all this pressure on the gearbox trying to turn those wheels, right? Turn that. So it overheats. And so they have to stop because it's overheating. They're having to stop because they're getting stuck. Well, our engineering and our performance, like the design, was just like killer. It was best. Better than any vehicle they take to the
way better.
Yeah. Better than any vehicle they have down there. It was just like the perfect design for that environment.
Have you heard if any of that technology or engineering might be used for future explorations down there?
I wouldn't be surprised.
Yeah.
Because they were so impressed by it. All of those organizers, and they see everything, and they have the top of the top. They could not believe how that car ran.
Some of the vehicles that they actually use were vehicles that Jason designed and proved when he broke that record of almost a month or whatever those days were, and got that down to 38 hours. Those vehicles they wanted. So his design and what he created. So I would not be surprised if what we've engineered, that someone duplicates that for these modern vehicles.
That's awesome. Well, Christina, I have to give you hats off for you guys capturing some of the most jaw-dropping photos of this venture, the complete whiteout, where you just see this Porsche in the mix of just nothing. It is just completely white. And from your standpoint, Renée, I imagine that that equaled almost limited to no visibility for yourself. Panic at this moment or just sheer trust?
Oh no, neither. I don't experience panic. It takes a lot to frighten me, get me to that place. I did have some concerns though. It's the most concerns I've ever had with listening to a navigator. You know, in rally racing, it's that team of the two of you, and you have to have, complete trust in each other. What I'm doing behind the wheel and what he's calling for me to do, like, after this turn, you're going to do this, this, and this. So come into this turn this fast because there's another turn after it, right? You have to trust that person. And he was giving me direction without seeing anything, not based on pace notes that you have in a rally, but based upon a GPS waypoint that's probably 10 miles in front of us that you can't see. And you're going through crevasse areas. And like Christina was saying, there's areas you can't get out of the car. So you don't know where you are in that environment. And you got to get there. And you can't see. So you can't even, there's something called sastrugi down there, is when the wind blows up this snow and creates compact ice. And it can be a wall, like a massive wall, like a 20-foot high building, or it can be 3 or 4 inches high. And so you don't know because you can't see. So I know I'm headed that direction for a GPS waypoint. But what is in front of me? Is it a ditch? Not a ditch, but is it a hole? Am I going down? Am I going up? Or is there sastrugi in front of me? I have no idea. So at one point it was like, it makes no sense, because if we break, if we get stuck, what we're gambling here is too high. The stakes are way, way too high. And we have to finish our 356 miles. That's what we're down here for. So at that point it was, let's turn around. Let's see if we can follow our tracks down this glacier, down this mountain range. And that was going to be tough enough, but it was, let's not be foolish. We have to keep our head.
But the contrast was to the point, we sort of inched into it, and I kept being like, is this what they mean by no contrast? But it does get to a white sheet of paper where you cannot see ground or sky. And in some of those photos, you can see that. Thank goodness there's a Porsche I can photograph, because there's no way to there's nothing. And the challenges of photography are many-fold down there, but it truly was whiteout conditions like nothing I've ever experienced. And you're in mountains and you're on glaciers, and your radios aren't working, and you can't communicate for anything. You cannot get a hold of each other. So they get so far out you can't see them, right? So it was so challenging.
Yeah, we're not riding side by side.
Yeah.
Not even close.
And like you said, the radios are pretty worthless. So yeah, you just dig deep, use your smarts, and figure it out.
Get back. Yeah.
When you hit the 355th mile, how did you take in that last mile of this journey for yourself? 7 continents. This is the last leg of this mission that you set out to do. 1 mile to go. What's going through yourself?
Well, up right before this last mile, we went through one of the worst crevasse fields that we knew about. And the car, we knew we only had 1 bolt left in the shop or somewhere. We knew we were so close to being finished. There were so many things that were variables that we knew could just go totally south in an instant. And I started to cry. I don't cry much. I started to cry. And behind my little glasses that are hiding my eyes, I'm having my silent cry. I don't sneeze with sounds, and I don't cry with a lot of sound. And so I'm in myself just in that moment. Jason's next to me, and he's counting off the distance and how many more miles and how many more feet and whatever that is, counting it down, right? And there's this release inside that's happening. And it's just, it's like the final exhale. Finally, as you're coming up to that last mile.
What were you experiencing, Christina?
Gosh, I haven't been in the car with my mom, but I have been on this roller coaster in my own way and sharing it with her. And it's so strange about the same, or maybe not strange, about us having the same experience, because Jason's radioing in the exact, as he's counting down the miles. And I don't historically ever cry. And I'm starting to silently just tears rolling down my face, because I think we probably both share in that we hold everything in. We're so game-faced. We just go, go, go. And we don't always sort of find the moments to acknowledge what was happening. But it was impossible not to feel what a big achievement that was, and how many years and how much hardship and how much struggle and just fighting like crazy to get this thing sponsored and to raise as much money as we're trying to raise. 100% of the money we raise goes through, right? So we had to work really hard to make this happen in so many ways. And so, gosh, it was a huge release, and I still kind of can't believe we did it. I mean, I can, but I can't, you know?
I mean, it is Antarctica, but how'd you guys celebrate?
We got a bottle of sparkling Chilean wine. We asked for some champagne because they spend the season, right? So they're there for New Year's. So they had a bottle of something that looked like champagne for us. And Mom, you talk about what you did.
Oh gosh, it was like, we have to have some we have to have something sparkling to celebrate, right? So we asked the kitchen, and they were so wonderful. They had to get the head cook and everything, and they dug this out of their stores, and they presented this, and they said, "Here, it's our gift. Please go take this and celebrate when you know." And by the way, they were there all outside cheering us when we came back into camp.
Oh,
it was so absolutely incredible.
The whole camp is incredible, yeah.
But yes, we did. We popped the cork, and popping that cork because of how tight it was and how cold it was, it didn't want to come out. Was so nothing came easy. Couldn't even get the cork. Had to pass it around. Okay, you try to get it off. You try to get it off. No one could get it off. I mean, who can't get a cork off? So yeah, we popped that. We all had a celebratory toast, and we memorialized it with each saying something and cheering and laughing, and poured the champagne on the car.
Yes,
the car with the champagne, and yeah, it was really good.
One of the coolest things is that we ended up at Drake Icefall, which is this icefall that is so stunning, and there's sculpted waves, like huge sculpted waves. I don't know if I've sent you a photo, but I will. So it was the climactic moment. It was the apex. In the apex, I think, of that environment for us. So there's so many things that were so incredible and breathtaking about that moment.
And as unpredictable as the journey was, it was as unpredictable getting back home. You guys ended up having to stay in Antarctica for a couple of days. Renée, you'd already said that you didn't want to leave, but in those days, what was the reflection like?
Whew. Well, we did have talks about what's next.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
I'm always a what's next person. It's like, wait. We can't talk what's next. Let us just enjoy this moment, right? But I have a very active, creative mind that's always like thinking on those things, right? But it was just time to just be as a team and not have that pressure of working and trying to solve problems, and just having that camaraderie, and then getting an opportunity to meet the other people in camp, the people that work there, amazing, incredible individuals, people that you wish you could surround yourself with every day of life. Super humble, super accomplished. You would never know that this man that you're chatting with, who has led, 13 or 14 expeditions to the top of Everest, has climbed all these mountains and had these immense experiences, and yet has this peaceful spirit of humility, and just person after person like that, is just very, very accomplished, very humble, and very kind, and super supportive and loving, caring about what we're doing, caring about why we're doing it. And just, they were there to cheer us when we came in, and having the time afterwards to spend and get to know them was great.
For you, Christina, what were you reflecting on?
I was fighting with the satellite trying to get media out.
Yeah.
I didn't stop. I didn't have time to stop even then. There's so much pressure for me to if I don't get it out, it never happened, right? And so I spent a lot of time wrestling with, there's one satellite that covers that part of the Earth that we can connect with. There's some military satellites, but there's only one that you can use as a civilian. And so I think I was nonstop fighting with that for the next 5 days. But it was amazing because there was a couple lectures, because they have to entertain people. There's a lot of people that go there to ski or go look at penguins or fly to the South Pole. So there's people there was a couple people there that weren't on extreme expeditions. And so there were some amazing lectures from people, like the gentleman who just climbed K2 a couple times and Everest 14 times. So, I mean, it was an amazing sort of letdown, and there was a film crew down there we got stuck with. And I think we were down there 5 extra days, and we were supposed to leave on Thursday because they had cleaned the runway all night and the wind had stopped. And the Chilean government has a tiny little base down there. They have looks like 2 tents and 2 Twin Otter planes. And we got the call that they called the logistics company and said, the runway's ours. We're going to land 2 Hercules. We're clearing up camp. You can't bring a plane in. You guys are here another day. So even to the very end, it was sort of fascinating how that whole world works and what the Chilean government's presence is and how the rest of the community interacts with that. And it's a fascinating place for sure.
Did you guys see any animals?
There's no animals down there.
Yep.
There's penguins on the coast, but there's no birds. There's no insects. There's nothing.
Wow.
Nothing can survive down there.
Do you want to go back?
Yes. Yeah.
I think about it every day, Amanda. True confession. I hate to say it. Don't tell Christina.
What? Why not tell me?
Because she'll say, Mom, wait, we've got this, and this too. No, I know you feel the same way, but
I'm dying to get back there.
Go back tomorrow. And I would love, I hesitate to talk about it, but Polar Porsche is so amazing. There are things that can be done that haven't been done that would knock the socks off any modern vehicle because they don't have manual transmissions. They're automatic, and that's why they're overheating. We don't have that problem, and that's a huge problem for all their vehicles. So there's just pluses of things that we can do, and I definitely am thinking, I have definitely a plan. I have a plan, and I'm going to execute that plan as quickly as I can. But right now,
we got to get the car back.
I got to get the car back. Fix a couple little problems. And you know what, though, Amanda, just to share with you, I have a burning in my heart to get more time of finding these people that are trafficking these kids and getting out there in these countries. And I've got some extra opportunities this year, and I want to, if I could go every month, I would. I have a vision to develop a team and possibly a team of women. There's something I've experienced as a woman undercover that we can do that the guys can't do. We're not on their radar. Women typically aren't in law enforcement in these countries. Women typically don't put themselves in these environments. So we're doing stuff and they don't know we're doing it. I just have a vision for some things that can be done to find kids that are being trafficked and find the traffickers and get them arrested. That I just feel it was super powerful. So I've got this thing that I'm hoping this year I can really get some momentum on and develop and get going because those kids are living that life every day. Mm-hmm. And the sooner we get to them, we got to get to them.
And Christina, I know we still have this campaign going on, so I want to make sure that our listeners are aware of this one with Omaz. And to find this, it's omaz.com/winthisporsche. What has that part of the campaign been for this journey for you guys?
Gosh, we have such a fun partnership with Omaz, and they bought a 356. They shipped it to Tuthill Porsche in the UK, and they impeccably restored it. And it's an homage Valkyrie Racing 356. It certainly doesn't have skis and tracks, but it is so beautiful. We had an event at the Peterson Museum in November before we left. So they sweepstakes the car. We're a small fish. They usually do things with Patrick Dempsey and much bigger names than us, but they believed in our story. And so we get a proceeds of what this campaign earns, and 100% of those funds go to frontline organizations. So it's called omaz.com/winthisporsche. And if you enter to win, we'll get you a special code for your listeners through March 5th. Gosh, you get a chance to win, and you can help some kids that are in need.
Win a Porsche.
Win a Porsche.
Fact.
356.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, I do have just a couple more questions for you. I think of just what an incredible journey as a human this must have been to experience. What do you think was the biggest thing you learned about yourself, Renée?
Gosh, I never want to quit. Maybe, I don't know. Just there's a fire in me that can't be quenched.
Christina?
Oh gosh, I learned how strong I am, and I learned how much like my mom I am in terms of I feel so alive doing these things, right? And you start to look at your life. It's my birthday tomorrow, and I go, what am I doing? And am I living my life to the fullest? And we do a lot of these things together, and I get to hear, I have the privilege of bearing witness to what she says, which is when we take our last breath, we want to know we did everything we could. So for us, it's not just to go have amazing experiences, but it's to go raise money and go get on the ground and do work to change the lives of children that are at risk. And so for us, that's our heart and that's our driving force. And doing these sort of extraordinary things has allowed us build that voice and do more and more. So I can't wait to see what comes, but I'm more alike than her than I realize. That's for sure.
In 2017, you kicked off the mission of racing your Porsche 356 on every continent. The final and last part of that was here in Antarctica. Was this riskiest?
I think Jason was right. It's because of things you can't see. So how do you deal with them? What do you do? It's not like you can see it coming. You can't see it coming. So we talked about things like we mentioned, if you can, throw the doors open. If you're walking and you hit a crevasse, spread your arms, spread eagle, throw your body, make it bigger, make your mass bigger. That was the whole point of doing skis and tracks. I wanted tires, but we couldn't distribute weight. So I think it is the unforeseen and the thing that, again, that Jason said was it really is the beauty and the beast. As much as it's beautiful, as ugly as that beast is, and give respect. And don't ever let your guard down.
Do you feel as if the mission is complete?
Yes and no. We have a lot more money we'd like to raise, and we'd like to do a lot more good. And so as much as the 7 continents are complete, well, for me, I got to go edit and sell the doc. And so there's a whole piece, a huge component left for me. But I think that there's Project 356 is complete, but we're not finished. And there's another chapter. And that became really clear when we were down there that, yeah, we did this, but there's so much more we can go do.
But you did it, Renée.
We did it. We did it. Total team. Yeah, we did it. Amazing. I'm amazed. If I stop and look, it's amazing. And the people that came alongside and supported us, and PXG coming alongside for that last journey and believing in us and putting their brand on our car, and people scratching their head saying, what in the world does golf have to do with what you're doing? And it makes total sense. If you know their brand and you know the Parsons, it makes total sense. And that they believed in us and they supported our whole Antarctic trip. And then, of course, made a massive donation to the charity. That was such a huge boon that came in for us. That really carried us. And so it's just people like that in your life. And that helped us get across the goal line. We're very, very thankful. I'm very, very thankful. And thank you to all the people that are listening to this and have come alongside us. Thank you for Amanda and Tina and Cindy and Lynn and all you all and all the others. Just thank you. Thank you for feeling what we feel and coming alongside us and helping us in this journey.
Well, from our time shared with you here in the Women Shifting Gears community, I do know if there's one thing about your spirit is that you are far from being done. What might be on the next horizon for you guys?
There's a couple ideas. And I don't want to spoil them, but there's
Sure.
certainly a very strong idea with the Polar Porsche, a 2.0 version of what that's going to look like, because it's impossible to think about taking those skis and tracks off. So we're going to see if we can effectuate that goal. But we got to get the car home and let some people experience how cool it is and do a few things before that. But gosh, that's on the horizon.
And the second one, and how these come into play and what that looks like, is I think it would be so cool to get Christina behind the wheel and to do something as a mother-daughter team, as a woman's team. And what does that look like? Is it just the two of us? Is it in bringing other women with the same kind of spirit? I don't know. But
we talked about, female mechanic. There's so much.
Sure.
Female mechanics and building out what that looks like and something we're exploring.
Well, I know you two are up to something. So the drum roll that we wait for of what is next. And as I close this out, Renée, where are your letters?
they are still with my Antarctica gear. I thought about it, giving my husband his and my children theirs. And I thought, no, I'm going to tuck those away someplace. And then when I am gone, they can read those letters.
Christina?
They are in the book I wrote them in. And I have thought about it. I thought those were some really meaningful things I wrote, and maybe I shouldn't wait until I pass on to the next realm. Maybe I should give those to the loved ones I wrote them to. So that's something I've thought about a few times. I'm like, maybe I should. But there's so much in there. There's so much vulnerability and heart, and you're writing, the letter in case you don't come home. So we'll see what I do with them.
How would the letter to your mom start?
Oh, that's a tearjerker, Amanda. I don't know if I can go there, but it'll be long. It's it's the greatest adventure of my life, being able to watch what her life has become, and her true, gosh, she's had a complete life metamorphosis. So I've gotten to find out who she is, what she made of, so much of what she's put into me that I've learned through being able to bear witness with this. So something I'm not ready to think about yet, but gosh, there's a lot there.
Renée, what would you write to Christina?
I'm so proud of her. As a mom, you think, and for me, it was so much of who they would become, each one of my 4, who they would become as people. And what that meant was not how much money they made or all their accolades, but who they are in their heart and who they are in their soul, and that inner person and who that is. Who is that person? That's what I cared about and valued in them. And not that I didn't equip them and help them to have all those other talents to succeed in life. Of course, whatever that would look like. And I remember telling them, I don't care if you're a waitress or you're the CEO of a company, you go give it your best and you be the best at whatever that is. But it's who Christina is inside, and that beauty inside her, and that person that, I could spend 10 minutes describing, and be trying to find more adjectives. So I'm very, very, so as a mom, so thankful for who she is as a human being, who she is as a person, and who she is a woman and a daughter, and all those places and all those roles. I'm very, very proud of her.
Congratulations to you both.
Gosh, thanks, Amanda.
The Brinkerhoffs on the Women Shifting Gears podcast, driven by Hemmings. Thank you for listening to the Women Shifting Gears podcast, driven by Hemmings. Hemmings, your marketplace for the car collector enthusiast since 1954. This podcast is produced by GS Events.